What is up guys, Andy Forestine Runner here, back with another video, and today we're talking all about this thing, the Hoka One One RINCON 2, and how it's performing after 100 miles. So welcome back to another video, and today we're talking all about this thing, the Hoka One One RINCON 2. After 100 miles, how have we been using this shoe? How is the performance of the shoe, the wear and tear, and of course answering that main question of will I be taking this shoe past the 100 mile mark? So you're excited for today's video guys? Make sure you give it a like, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel for weekly running content, and we'll start with the wear and tear. So in terms of wear and tear, with any shoe at 100 miles, you really don't want to be seeing any form of deterioration, whether that's in the upper, the midsole or the outsole. And every shoe I've reviewed predominantly tends to be holding up really well at that point. The RINCON 2, or the RINCON lineup I should say, is a slight exception because we'll talk about the outsole in a second. It does look like it's been through a few rounds with Mike Tyson and it is only at 100 miles, but there's a reason for that, and it's predominantly just aesthetic. In terms of the upper, it's holding up really well, really nice, especially around here where there's really not a lot of mud. It still has that kind of brand new shine about it, so it really does feel, from an upper perspective and in the cushioning up and around the ankle and heel collar area, still feels really solid, which is good. It's exactly what I would want to feel. In the midsole at this stage as well is holding up really well. Now if you've seen my previous RINCON videos and my RINCON 2 first impressions and speed and long run test video, you'll know that the midsole on this shoe flattens out very quickly. The EVA foam they use basically just dies a horrible death rather suddenly. For me it was around 180 miles. I eked it out to about 220 until I really started getting horrific shin and ankle pain in the shoe, and I just had to call it there, which is a little bit frustrating, but it seems to be the nature of the shoe and the EVA midsole that they use. It's the outsole though that looks like it has seen better days. Now after 100 miles, bearing in mind what tends to happen with the RINCON lineup, whether it's the 1 or the 2, they're exposed EVA on the bottom, especially in and around that area there. As you can see, is it there where I point? Yeah, right there. It just sheds a layer of skin, and then the high wearing areas, you can see I'm like a midfoot lander and then pushing off in and around that area. It tends to be a little bit worse for wear, still snagging down the bottom there as you can see, but predominantly we're talking in and around this area for me and up towards the top on the toe off. Now it is aesthetic. It really has had no impact on the grip of the shoe. It's had no impact on the performance of the shoe, but you do have to bear in mind that if you do end up buying this shoe, don't panic when you see this happen, because this happens very early on. Even after the first couple of runs, you'll start to see some flakes of rubber coming off, and the more you run in it, the more that it will happen, and it kind of seems to steady itself after about 50-60 miles for me. So I guess around 100k, 80 to 100k for those of you working K. It tends to stop around there, and then it just looks worse for wear all the way through. And to be honest with you, other than that, it's holding up really well. Moving on to performance, how has this shoe performed for me over the 100 miles? How have I been using it? Where do I find its sweet spot is, and where do I find the shoe is maybe not so great? Well, to be honest with you, I'll answer that question. This shoe is great at every single run. That's why I gave the RINCON 1 the score, or the label, the tag, the badge, the award, whatever you want to call it, of Shoe of the Year 2019. Despite the early flattening of the midsole, that RINCON I used for easy days, long runs, hill runs, tempos, intervals and races, and set PRs in that shoe. I absolutely loved it. With the RINCON 2, it's exactly the same. The only thing for me personally is I guess the shine has gone a little bit off the RINCON tag, because I've tried so many incredible shoes this year. I kind of feel like this has dropped down the pecking order a little bit, because there are things like the Nova Blast and the Speed which have caught my eye a little bit more. But last year I think the RINCON 1 was an exceptional shoe, and there's been no deterioration in terms of going from 1 to 2. The versions are just as good as each other. If you can get a version 1 on discount at the moment because the 2's out, go for it, because they're both as good as each other, and the change between the two is literally the upper material. That's it. Everything else is exactly the same. And this shoe, obviously I haven't raced in it because we've had limited races this year, but again, I've done long runs, hill runs, tempos, workouts, Easy runs, everything. The versatility of the Rincon is what draws so many people to it. It's a jack of all trades shoe. As Seth would say, it's a tweener shoe. You can do so many things with it. And I think for me, that's where the appeal is. I buy this shoe knowing that I'm going to get a limited lifespan, but when I have it, I'm going to be able to enjoy it in every aspect. So how I've been using it in every single type of run basically. And does this shoe have a weakness? Not really. If you're used to carbon plated shoes, it might feel a little bit odd, just like going back to any shoe without carbon plates, but on the whole, it is a great performing shoe. Where have I found its sweet spot? Well, actually, interestingly with this one, I've actually preferred to run easy in this shoe, whereas last year with the Rincon 2, I actually preferred to run faster. And again, I think that's because I've tried so many other great faster shoes this year that I've saved those faster shoes for the workouts, and then I ended up using the Rincon 2 a little bit more for easy stuff. As I said, I have used it across everything, but for me, this year, this version's really shone when I'm taking it a little bit easier. So let's answer that question. Will I be taking this shoe up and above 100 miles? Is it a really good shoe that's worth spending more time in it? Yes, it is a shoe that's definitely worth spending more time in it. But for me right now, I am not going to be taking this shoe past the 100 mile mark. As some of you might know, if you've been watching my recent 10K training series, I've been suffering with a little bit of plantar fasciitis, and I've noticed some shoes have been aggravating that and some shoes have not been aggravating it. Now I know that this has not caused my plantar fasciitis, but I have found when running in this shoe that it aggravates it, because where my plantar fasciitis is suffering a little bit is in this area here, literally just under the foot here, and the Rincon is relatively snug along the midfoot, so I'm finding that material is very close and rubbing on that sore point area. So I'm having to pick shoes with a bigger toe box, like the Nova Blast, that's giving my foot lots of room to splay and a lot of cushioning under it. Now this has the cushioning, but it's just sadly a little bit too narrow, putting a bit too much pressure on that plantar fasciitis, or that area that I'm suffering with at the moment. So right now, very sadly, I'm not going to be taking this shoe past it. In a couple of weeks' time, I might start digging it out. I've got other shoes that I have priority over this one, but if I wasn't suffering with it, 100% yes, I would take it above and beyond. But I just need to be careful with my training at the moment. I need to prioritize that over shoes and videos and stuff like that. I've got to be really, really sensible. So this one will be being shelved for the moment. I will dig it back out. I'll be using it a little bit more, hopefully towards the end of December, maybe moving into January. And we'll see if we can get it to the point where it goes flat again. I'm anticipating I won't get another 100 miles out of it, but I'll do my best. But it's just not going to be right now. There we go. Those are my thoughts on the Hoka One One Rincon 2 after 100 miles. A great versatile shoe that's done really, really well for me. And as I said, not right now, but maybe in the near future. I'll be taking it above and beyond. Just right now, I need to prioritize my foot and get that better. But on the whole, if you can get a Rincon version 1, 100% that shoe is worth trying. Just bear in mind, these shoes are a relatively narrow fit. I have quite a wide foot, and to be perfectly honest with you, it is tight and snug. I can get away with it, but if you have a really wide foot, it's probably not going to be the shoe for you. However, if you have a medium width foot and can get away with a lot of Hoka shoes, this thing is definitely worth a look at, especially, as I said, if you can get the version 1 on discount. Let me know in the comments below if you've got the Rincon 2, how many miles you've got it to. Have you got it to the point where it's gone flat yet, or are you still enjoying it? Is it still in its bouncy stage? Let me know. If you want to know more about what's going on with this thing, stay tuned for the end of the week, where I'll be documenting and detailing in my 10K training series what on earth I've done to my finger and why I'm having to have surgery this coming Thursday. Fingers crossed, all being well, having surgery to fix what I have done to this thing. It's absolutely unreal. But that is a side note. I hope you've enjoyed today's video, guys. If you did, please do give it a like, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel for weekly running content, and as always, I'll see you on the next one. Until then,